All right, today we are diving into some of the most powerful strategic advice ever written, and I mean ever. It's from chapter 10 of Sun Tzu's The Art of War. We're going to see how this ancient wisdom isn't just for battlefields, it's an incredible framework for any leader today. So let's just start with the big question, the one every single leader has to ask themselves at some point. What really separates a win from a loss? Is it just luck? Having more money, or some kind of genius idea?
Well, Sun Tzu's answer is kind of brilliant in its simplicity. He says it all comes down to mastering two different but totally connected battlefields. First, you've got the world outside you, your market, your industry. And second, you have the world inside, your team. If you can master both of those, you're practically unstoppable. But if you get even one of them wrong, well, you're just setting yourself up to fail.
So yeah, this is the core idea for our entire explainer today. Victory isn't just about having a killer strategy. It's about deeply understanding the context you're in, what Sun Tzu calls the ground, and then knowing, with total honesty, if your people are actually ready for that fight. Okay, so let's tackle that first battlefield. The world outside. Sun Tzu calls it terrain, but for you and me, that's the market, it's the competitive landscape, it's the situation we're facing every single day.
And this is where it gets really practical. Sun Tzu broke down terrain into 6 types, and believe it or not, they map perfectly to modern business. For instance, if you're in an accessible or open market, your goal is to seize the key channels first. If you're looking at a high-risk entrapping venture, you don't move unless your opponent is totally unprepared. In a mature, deadlock market, you don't charge in, you lure them into making a mistake. You see the pattern? You don't just fight anywhere. You analyze the situation and you pick the ground that helps you win.
And that's really the key takeaway for this first battlefield. Being aware of your situation isn't just a nice little bonus, it's everything. You could have the most brilliant strategy in the world, but if you deploy it in the wrong environment, it's going to fail. Your first job as a leader is to read the terrain and only engage where the ground itself gives you an edge.
Okay, but what if you do that? You pick the absolute perfect terrain, you've got a strategic advantage, and you still lose. Well, Sun Tzu's pretty brutal on this. He says if that happens, it's because you failed on the second battlefield, your own team. And when that happens, the blame lies in only one place, with you, the leader.
He actually lays out what he calls the 6 paths to defeat. And listen, these aren't about bad luck or getting outsmarted by a competitor. No. These are 6 types of internal decay that come directly from bad leadership. Let's check out a couple.
Just look at these 2 failures. They're like 2 sides of the same coin. On one hand, you have laxity. That's when you have a really talented team, but weak managers. The result? Pure chaos. People are just spinning their wheels. On the other hand, you have collapse. That's a strong manager pushing a weak, underskilled team too hard. What happens? Burnout, and morale just tanks. Both are different problems, but they both lead to the exact same place, defeat.
And the other 4? Just as bad. Flight is just being reckless. Disintegration, that's when your managers go rogue, chasing their own pet projects instead of the main strategy. Chaos is exactly what it sounds like. No rules, no roles, just a toxic mess. And rout is a failure of homework. You misjudge the competition and send in a team that's way too weak. See the theme here? Every single one is a failure of leadership. And this is the real gut punch from Sun Tzu. His message is one of just radical accountability. You can't blame the market, you can't blame the competition, you can't blame bad luck. If your team fails, that failure is a direct reflection of your leadership. End of story.
Okay, so we have the external battlefield of terrain and the internal battlefield of the team. How do we pull these 2 massive ideas together? Well, Sun Tzu says that real mastery comes when you can integrate them into one single, clear picture of the entire situation.
He gives us this trifecta of victory. Think of it as a simple 3-point checklist. Before you make any move, you need a crystal clear yes to all 3 of these questions. Number 1, is my team ready? Number 2, is my opponent weak or vulnerable? And number 3, does the situation, the terrain itself, actually favor me? Because think about it, if you only know that your team is ready to go, but you know nothing about the enemy or the situation, what are your chances? 50-50. You're just flipping a coin. And what if you only know the enemy is weak, but you haven't checked if your team is ready or if the terrain is on your side? Same deal, 50-50.
And you guessed it, if you only know the terrain is perfect, but you ignore the other two, you are still just gambling. And a true leader never ever gambles when it really matters.
So this really becomes the leader's core job. Step 1, do the cold, hard math. Calculate everything. The risks, the challenges, the obstacles. Step 2, find the moral courage to actually act on that calculation. And step 3 is the hardest part. Fight only when you know you can win, and have the strength to refuse the fight when you know you'll lose, no matter how much your ego wants to go for it. To build a team that can actually win, you have to walk this incredible tightrope. On one side, you have to lead with care. Sun Tzu says to treat your soldiers like your own beloved sons, and they will follow you anywhere, even to their deaths. But, and this is a huge but, if you only care, if you spoil them and let standards slide, they become useless.
So in the end, it's not one or the other. It's both. The winning formula is dead simple to say, but hard to do. Deep, genuine care combined with unwavering high standards. That's what creates loyalty and excellence. That's how you forge a team that is truly unbreakable.
And that leaves us with one final, and maybe most important question. This one's for you. As a leader, when you look at your world right now, which battlefield needs your focus most urgently? Is it the external terrain, your market, your competition? Or is it the internal one, the state of your own team? Your answer to that question tells you exactly where the work needs to begin.